Volume. Okay, just checking volume. Can someone in the chat let me know if you can hear me okay? Okay, just checking volume. Can someone in the chat let me? Good evening. Hi, Taslin. Hello, Sis Milan. Okay. You can hear me? Okay, I want to do a check with Marianne. Marianne, talk.
Hello.
Yeah, nice and clear for both of us.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's all good.
I wasn't even your foot.
No, you're good. Okay, guys. Okay. Thank you, thank you. Okay, so thank you for tuning in. This is our second episode of Love Story. And I'm feeling to maybe just give us like, one more minute. One more minute. Marianne is here with us today. Excited for you guys to hear her story. I think you need to be more in the frame, so come over a bit more. Yeah, there we go. It's all about you. Okay, good. Okay, volume is great. Is there an echo right now? Just confirm if you're hearing the echo still, because I did turn something off. So let me know if you hear the echo. Last sound check. No echo for you? Okay. What about for you, Taz? Any echo? Okay. Okay, guys. So we are going to start with our love story for this evening. Thank you so much for coming and joining us today and for supporting love. That's really what it is, right? Supporting love. I know that we have all experienced darkness at some point in our lives, whether the darkness is within or surrounding us or both. At some point, we have experienced darkness, and love has truly been the savior. And love sometimes shows up in our life, in many different ways, right? Some of us find love through spirituality. Some of us find love through friends and family and nature. Sometimes it's in that still small voice, and so many different ways, in the sunshine and the smiles, in hugs and kisses, right? So this program is all about giving you a platform to be able to share your love story and to be able to support others as they share theirs, right? So today we have with us someone who is very, very special, very special to me. Her name is Marianne. And Marianne is going to share with you her story of darkness, but definitely the light of love. Okay, and I know that some of you will definitely resonate with things that she will share in her story. So please, if you have any questions, just place them in our chat. And every now and then I'll peek in to see what you're asking, as she shares her story. I do have a few questions for her as she goes along, but maybe I'll keep those to the end or throughout. You okay with flowing?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, so without any further ado, here is Marianne sharing her story with us. So let's start off, Marianne, with maybe is there anything about you that you'd like us to know before we start? Or would you like to just jump into your story?
I think I'd like to just jump in and then, yeah, if there's something else that comes up afterwards, sure.
Okay, okay, good. So let's start with what I guess the question I have for you would be, what has been your darkest time in your
Okay.
life? Mhm.
Okay, the darkest time in my life was when I took a bunch of sleeping pills, probably about 21 of them,
Mhm.
and some vodka, and I tried to end my life. That was definitely, yeah, the darkest point in my life.
I I know you're telling us about something so serious, and I smile because thinking of you drinking vodka, the person I know today, it's like I just can't imagine it, right? But so let's go back. Take me back to that was it, I guess, in the nighttime, to that night?
Yeah, it was definitely in the evening. I was in my bedroom. I was sitting on the floor, and I had put my bed. I was living alone, but I still put my bed at my bedroom door to to block it. Like if someone did try to come in, they wouldn't have been able to.
Mhm.
And I was sitting on the floor and I was crying, and I had the bottle of vodka and the pills there, and I just took a handful and another handful. Like when I say 21, I want to say that's how much was probably left in the bottle because I was taking sleeping pills like on a regular basis. But yeah, I would say, I mean, it was definitely a lot. And yeah, it was evening, and I took them, and then I just laid down on the floor in front of my bed.
Yeah. So can you help us to understand what brought you to that place? Like why did you want to, I'm assuming, take your life, right?
Right. Yeah, I definitely, I said a prayer. I felt like suicide is wrong,
Mm.
but I was just in so much pain that I didn't want to live. And I said a prayer for God to forgive me that I know it's wrong, but, to
Mhm.
please understand. Um, so what the reason for that was a lot of stuff in my life, but mainly my husband had transitioned, and um, I want to say like maybe by that time it had already been like a few months at least. Um, but the grief was just overwhelming. Like um, I couldn't snap out of it. Like it consumed me.
Mhm.
Like, um, even when I was like going to work, like on my way home from work, I would already be taking sleeping pills like on the bus so that when
Mhm.
I get home,
Mhm.
I can just sleep. Like,
Yeah, I get it.
yeah, I didn't want to be awake. And also because when I would sleep, I would dream. And, in my dream, everything was perfect. And then I would wake up and the reality would hit me again.
When you say
Yeah.
everything was perfect, what do you mean?
Like, my husband was there in my
Mm.
dreams. Like it was just, it wasn't it's not that I was having like dreams that didn't already happen in my life,
Mm.
but it's just that it was so real.
Mm.
And then I would wake up, and for a few seconds I would feel like, okay, maybe everything was just a bad dream. Like, but then the reality would hit me, and I just immediately reach for my sleeping pills again and try to go to sleep, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can feel that. I just want to thank you for sharing this. Like even at this moment, I know you have so much more to share, but I can feel sitting beside you. I can feel, the intensity of that memory. Um, if at any point you want to just take a pause, that's okay too. I'm
Thank
sure
you.
everybody, who's here right now wouldn't mind if you needed to take a moment if at any point. Um, how long had you and your husband been married for at that point?
6 years, and we were together, like all together, we were 9 years, but we were married for 6 years.
Okay. And did you like, was there any other things, like, were you happily married? Were there any other things that happened around that time, like, to cause you to, I mean, obviously you lose your husband, you're gonna be in grief, but to that extent, to like wanting to like take your life, were there other things happening that maybe had you, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yes, we were happily married. Like
Hmm.
it was, I mean, it was very much a happy marriage.
Yeah.
But yes, we had been probably like from the second year that we were married,
Hmm.
we had been trying to have a baby, he was in school, I was working at like a really good job, and we were just excited, like, okay, now like let's focus on having a
Hmm.
family.
Hmm.
And so we had been trying, I would say like the first year and a half we were just trying whatever, not really like worried that about anything. But then we started, I went to my doctor and like, hey, I'm not getting pregnant. And she sent me for a bunch of tests and everything was okay. But then still we went to a fertility
Clinic.
clinic,
Hmm.
yeah, a fertility clinic, and we were doing that. And then, we had like some unsuccessful
Hmm.
attempts and then finally got pregnant. I didn't, it, like we kind of kept it to ourselves because we were just so happy and just wanted to wait until,
Hmm.
to break the news.
Hmm.
But yeah, but Um, I had a miscarriage like about 3 months um, before he transitioned. So I
Hmm.
was about 5 months along.
Wow.
And um,
Hmm.
yeah, I had a miscarriage. So that was, you know, heartbreaking. And it's like we tried for so long
Hmm.
and it finally happened.
Hmm.
And then, I had a miscarriage and I was grieving that, and I didn't have any time off from work to grieve it. So I just, had to just,
Getting time
I
off
only
work.
got like a few days.
Wow.
Yeah, like
Wow.
3 days.
Wow.
And then, so I was grieving that and we were trying to be positive
Mm.
that, we'll try again. Um, I remember like we had went out for dinner and we were talking about like, okay, we'll try again. It's gonna happen.
Wow.
Um, you know,
Hmm. Hmm.
but I didn't know that 3 months later that he was going to transition. So
This is I mean, obviously I know your story, but hearing you say it again, with the probably just being sitting beside you, you know what I mean? I can fully understand how you would be in that place of just trying so long, 9 years being together. You're trying like pretty much as soon as you get married, you're trying, not worried about it, but then you going all the way to like fertility clinics. And then you end up finally getting pregnant. You probably had some unsuccessful ones
hmm
before that, finally getting pregnant 5 months into it. You're excited, like probably the sex of your baby. You probably know, when the baby, obviously, the due date, you're like at
hmm
that point, it's way past that first trimester. So you're
right.
like, baby's coming and you've been trying for so long. So
hmm
losing the baby is grief enough for most people. I mean, I've lost, this already, I've lost
hmm
children, but then to lose your husband while you're in the grieving process is totally devastating. Is there like, how did you, and I think everybody listening could probably understand why you wanted to just be with him and be in the sleep state.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What, how did you get out of that? Or like what, like how were you able to piece together, you know, like what was happening? Because you took those pills, and I guess what were some things that were going through your mind at that time? You didn't want to live, obviously, because of him, the baby. Was there other stuff that was, you know,
Yeah. I
heavy
mean,
on you?
yes,
Hmm.
there was, you know, there was a lot of abuse in my childhood.
Mm,
And that stuff, even though like I was happily married at the time,
mhm,
but that stuff still was there, because I hadn't dealt with it. So, there was a lot of self-hate because I felt like, I probably didn't deserve, like, who was I to be thinking that,
mm,
you know,
mhm,
how did I fool myself to think I'm gonna have like a family
mm,
and a husband and, this happy life? Like, what was I thinking?
mhm,
Thinking that that was actually going to be the way that things turned out for me. So
mhm,
it's just an accumulation of everything. Like, and then
mhm,
now the person that, I thought was my forever person is
mhm,
not there. So I
mhm,
can't talk to him about,
mhm.
what I'm feeling. So
Wow. Did you do you want to talk at all about your childhood? Like, do you want to get into that? I know that that's you mentioning it there. So you have the darkness of obviously your husband passing, losing the baby, and then the childhood stuff. Do you want to go into that? Do you want to share?
yes,
Mhm.
definitely.
So what is the darkness of your childhood? Where do you want to start?
Okay. Well, when I was 3 years old, I have a twin brother, so him and I lived with my grandparents, and my mother was supposed to be like kind of getting her life together. I'll say that she wasn't happy about um, it. Was like my brother and I were not planned in her for her,
Mhm,
So we lived with our grandparents, and then when I was 3, my mother had met someone and they were getting married, and we were supposed to go live with her. Um, at the time, when I lived with my grandparents, it was up north, like close to Sudbury. And then my mother and her husband were living in a place called Cornwall, which is close to Ottawa. So it's like we're not just now going to live with our mother that we've never lived with,
mhm.
but we're leaving our grandparents like so far
Yes,
away.
yes.
Um, so at first, my stepfather would just, not just, but the abuse was physical. Like he would hit
Mhm,
us, he wouldn't feed us, so forth. And then um, I'm not really sure like how my grandmother found out about it, but we went back to live with her. Then when we were 7, again, my mother um, said that she wanted us to come and live with her, that she was getting back together with my biological father,
mhm,
and um, she wanted us to be a family. We didn't want to go. My grandma didn't want us to go, but we had no choice because she's our mother and,
mhm, mhm,
she had the say over it. Um, what she had, the story that she had told was not true. She was still with my stepfather. And pretty much from the first night, the first night that we were there, he started to sexually abuse me.
mhm,
And, I told my mother about it the next day, and she was just, she was like, "Oh, really? Like, oh wow, like I can't, I'm surprised he would do that." But, there was no like outrage, there was
mhm,
no like, okay, I'll make sure it never happens
mhm,
again. Um,
mhm.
and then to come to find out, like, he had even told me, like, there's no point in telling your mother anything because she already knows.
Wow.
And she did know. So,
Mhm. So apart from how did you go from like being in that situation with your stepfather um abusing you and your mom back to I guess you went back to your grandparents, right?
right.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
tell us about
Because someone reported what was happening to the children's aid. Um, like there were, my stepfather would like hit me and so forth. So neighbors did see, and they would, they would say stuff to him, but all I knew was that someone someone reported what was happening to the children's aid,
Mhm.
that I was being abused specifically. So one day my mother and I, we were in the grocery store, and the police came, social workers came, said that I had to go with them to the hospital. They did whatever exams, and they could tell that um, I had been, like, there was trauma,
Yeah.
like, and that I had been sexually abused.
Mhm.
And so at first, what they were going to do is just take me and place me in an emergency, like, foster care. Um, but they weren't going to take my twin brother because he, he wasn't the recipient of the
Mhm.
sexual
Mhm.
abuse. So I lied and I said that, nothing happened,
Mhm.
even though, I mean, it's obvious that things
Something.
happened, but I was
Mhm.
8 years old and I
Mhm.
didn't want to be separated from my brother.
Mhm. Mhm.
So um, the social workers gave my mother an ultimatum that either they take me right away and put me in emergency foster care, or she takes us back to live with our grandparents. So she chose to send us back to live with our grandparents.
Mhm.
And we left, like, I think it was a day or two later. We were
Okay.
on our way back to live with our grandparents.
And then what about was that the end of it? Like when you went back to your grandparents, was that
Um, well, I was 8 years old. So um, at first it was great. Like, we were back in school. We had all our friends, all our
Mhm.
teachers that
Mhm.
remembered us. So, it was
Mhm.
great. But the time that my brother and I were away from my grandmother had really, like, wreaked havoc on her health.
Mhm.
And she she got really sick and she had to be in the hospital. And then when I was 10, she passed away. So um, after my grandmother passed away, my grandfather now started to sexually abuse me.
Mhm.
So it didn't, I had a little bit of a reprieve during the time when my grandma was still alive. Um, and my grandma used to always say to me, like, my grandfather ever tried to touch me or anything, to tell her, but he never did,
Mhm.
So I didn't really, like, understand why she would say those things to me.
Mhm.
But as soon as my grandma um, passed, like maybe a week later, like,
Mhm.
he started.
Mhm. How long did that go on for?
It went for a year because he, my grandfather died almost a year, like a year and a day, like, to the time that my grandmother died.
Wow.
Yeah, like I was 11.
Yeah.
I was 10 when my grandmother died. I was 11 when my grandfather died.
Wow.
But it was pretty much like to a year and a day, I think,
Hmm.
from the time that my grandmother died.
So your grandfather dies and it's the end of it. It finally stops
Um, well,
as far as that
the
abuse.
abuse,
Yeah.
yeah, like, in terms of, like, the sexual abuse, yes,
Hmm.
the abuse stopped. My grandfather put my grandfather had a farm, like, with a lot of acres, and he put in his will that who out of my aunts and uncles, my grandparents had 8 children, 3 sons, and he put in the will that his 2 oldest sons had to decide between them who was going to raise my brother and I until we were 16, and then whoever that was, um, would inherit the farm,
Hmm.
which, like I said, was a lot of acres.
Hmm.
So I think it was like 60 acres or something like that. So,
Hmm. Hmm.
um, they wanted to, they, we were not close to our uncles at
Hmm.
all.
Hmm.
Um, the one uncle that we were more close to, my grandfather didn't put him in the will.
Wow.
So yeah,
Hmm.
um, the one that we would have, had a connection to, he didn't put in the will. So while they didn't like my uncles did not sexually abuse me, but there was definitely like it was very clear that they were raising us, they were going to raise us um so that they could get the farm. And when we were 16, we would be on our own.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There's no like, you know, that oh, we're part of the, we're part of their
Yes,
family now. Like,
yes,
no,
understood,
not at
understood.
all. Yeah.
So what happens, how do you go from living with your uncles and then what happened when you turned 16? Did they kick you out? Like what's the process?
No. So when we were okay, so we went to live with one uncle
Mhm.
and you know, um, things didn't work out. We were not happy. So we asked if we could go live with our other uncle, and we did. But then his wife was not happy
Mm.
having us. And so she convinced my uncle to now put us up um, to go into foster care when we were 12 years old.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay. So now you're in foster care. It ends, right? Like everything is,
The abuse ends,
yes.
yes. And while it's not perfect,
Hmm.
but it's definitely
Hmm.
way better than
Yeah,
what
whatever you were
whatever
experiencing.
what we experienced. Yes. And you know, yeah, it was definitely way better than what we'd experienced. And of course it's like the way that it happened, like nobody um there was no like introduction to our foster parents ahead of time or anything. It's like that day we went to court, the court decided that we're wards of the state and we go to live with our foster parents. And the social workers were there for maybe all of 2, 3 minutes.
Wow.
So there's not even like a time to, get to
Yeah,
feel
yeah.
comfortable. Yeah.
So how long were you in foster care for?
Until I moved out when I was 18, I moved out to go to university. But yeah, my foster parents, you know, treated us like they were that we were their children. So there was no um necessarily like ending foster care. I mean, when we turned 18, we're no longer considered to be in the children's aid,
Right.
but my foster parents still remain our parents like
Yeah,
to this day.
yeah.
So yeah.
And I know that you have mentioned to me before, like how great you had great foster parents. Not everybody is able to have that sort of a testimony that you have where your foster parents were amazing, with you,
Mhm.
especially in comparison to what you had been through. So shout out to all the foster parents who are actually good people making difference, a good positive difference in children's lives. We need more of you out there. So for
Mhm.
those who are doing that work, we salute you and send you much love and strength to continue what you're doing. Um, but Marianne, so okay, so now you're 18, and I guess that sort of abuse and stuff is done. So
Right.
fast forward, you end up meeting your husband, and I understand the story, and I think we're getting like a wider picture of the story. You end up meeting your husband, and it's like, wow, you mentioned that in the beginning where you said you never really thought that like you would be able to have that. You get with him, you're married, you finally get to have a baby out of years of trying. The baby passes 3 months after your husband passes.
Mhm.
The grief is immense. If there's anyone who can't imagine the grief that somebody would feel, the darkness, I don't know. I think anyone with a heart could feel what that must have felt like. So you find yourself with this bottle and vodka, and you're
Mhm.
overdosing on pills, and you close your eyes, you say your prayer, and you're ready to
Mhm.
go. You've had enough.
Yeah.
How? How do you tell me how does the light get turned on?
The light gets turned on because I woke up. I didn't actually die,
Mm.
you know?
Yeah.
Um, I woke up the next day. I think I slept probably like 15 hours,
Wow.
but I still woke up. And then, you know, it's like I slept on the floor in front of my bed the whole time. I woke up and I'm like, I'm awake. I didn't die. And then certain things started to flash in my mind. Like when I was 13, I fell through the ice. I said I lived up north. It was
Mhm.
like around Christmas. I had gotten skates, ice skates,
Mhm.
for Christmas, and I wanted to go test them out. And we found my younger foster sister and we found a patch of ice like by the railroad tracks. And, you know, we thought like being children, we tested it long enough. We were pounding on it and whatever.
Yeah.
And I skated out to the middle and I fell through.
Wow.
And, you know, I survived. Um, and
How
I,
did you survive that? Sorry. So you can't just you're
yeah,
skating and because I wouldn't do it, right? So you're
yeah.
skating in ice, you're so brave, right? You're skating, you fall through the ice, just your foster sister is older than you.
No, she's
She's
younger.
younger.
Like I was 13 and I think she was 7.
Okay.
So she's crying. She's trying to like throw something to me. Like
Wow.
I'm, panicking, whatever. And I just remember blacking out.
What?
And um, this man came out of nowhere.
Mhm.
Like, and okay, this is like up north. This
Mhm.
is like in the country.
Yes.
There's nothing
There's
around.
nothing
Like
around.
where we lived, there's like no other houses around, like for like, it's a farming area. So there's no houses close by.
You said your grandfather had like 60 acres.
Yes.
So yeah,
But I
exactly.
was like, at that time I was in foster care.
Oh,
So,
right,
but
right,
my
right.
foster parents had a farm
They had a
too.
farm. Okay,
Yes.
right, right, right.
So, there's no one around. And
Right.
then, yeah, this man came out of nowhere,
Wow.
just like walking across the snow. And all I remember is that like he carried me home, which would not have been, we were a distance away from where we lived. So
Mhm.
um he carried me home. And all I remember is like, hearing like, oh, we got to get her like warmed up because she's gonna die,
Yeah,
but I didn't.
yeah.
Um, I woke up from that too. I blacked out and then I woke up.
Mhm.
And I had this feeling like, okay, there's a reason why I didn't die.
Mhm.
Like I felt like,
Definitely.
yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
even like, at 13,
Mhm.
I felt like I'm supposed to do something. There's a reason why I
Mm.
didn't die.
Mm.
So that flashed through my head through my mind when I woke up from the sleeping pills. And then there was another time, like in while I was married,
Mhm.
um, my landlord had been renting a basement apartment to this man. And this was like a Wednesday, like every other Wednesday, I had went to church and went to Bible study. And on Wednesdays, my husband he was in school doing nursing. So he had his clinical
Mhm.
on Wednesdays. And, he was very studious. Like, he never missed clinical, never missed school, whatever, like
Mhm.
not for anything. But I came home and he was there.
Mhm.
And I said, "Oh, like you're home." And yeah, I don't know. Something just told me not to go to the clinical tonight. So I'm just going to stay home with you. So, of course I'm happy, but I'm smelling smoke.
Right.
Like, and I'm like, where's the smoke coming from?
Yeah.
And he said he had smelled it too, but he wasn't cooking anything. There was no one in the area that was,
Yes. Yes.
there was no explanation to why we're smelling smoke. So, anyways, I went and took my shower and I said, I'm going to go to bed. And I just kind of jokingly said to him,
Mhm.
like, if it gets worse, make sure to call 911.
Mhm.
Maybe about 20 minutes later, he came in the bedroom and he said he's going to go outside and investigate because the smoke was starting to get like stronger, the
Mhm.
smell.
Mhm.
So he went outside and um, when he came back, he told me that someone had taken the gas tank off of our
Mhm.
barbecue because we had a deck at the back of the house. Someone had taken off the gas tank and had put it like at the front of the house. There was a door that would go down to the basement, and basically that door was below my bedroom and below our bedroom. So the person had taken the gas tank, opened it like wide, and put a burning rag on top of it. So he saw the rag on fire. He took it off and stomped it out and called the fire department. And the fire department said, like, it's the reason that it didn't blow is because the person who did it, I guess, in their haste,
Wow.
didn't open the tank wide enough. So that's why it was taking longer. But 2 more minutes and the house would have exploded
With you in it.
with me in it.
And your husband.
Yes. But the thing is that it was at the front of the house. Like he was in the back of the house. So definitely I would have died. I don't know like if he would have, but for sure I would have. So that also like flashed through my mind. And I remember, because he wasn't supposed to be home.
No.
Like, and I would not have went outside to investigate. I know that for sure.
Yeah.
Like, I would have just said a prayer and, and whatever, and went to sleep and, trusted that everything's going to be okay. But yeah, definitely.
And those two things, when you woke up after taking the pills and drinking the vodka, those are the two things that flashed through your mind.
Yes.
That you, when you were, what was it, 13? You fell through the ice and were saved. Yes. And then now again. So I see someone wrote in the chat, through the water and through the fire. That is right. Through the water and through the fire. How did you feel? Now you're getting the memories of it's not your time to die. Right. It wasn't your time to die then. It wasn't your time to die now either.
Right. Yeah, I had a very strong like that, especially like as an adult, when the house should have exploded. Like it should have, you know. I was, the landlord that we were renting from, he had said to my husband, don't tell Marianne like what happened. And, of course, like he told me right away.
Yes.
But, and I was like, because he thought like, okay, definitely we're going to want to move out, whatever. We were good tenants. We're going to, we're going to want to move out. But I just had this like, knowing like in me that, but it wasn't my time to die. Yes. Like there is still something that, I'm supposed to do. I've gotten sidetracked, but there's a purpose. There's a reason why I didn't die. So when I woke up from those sleeping pills, it's like those things flashed in my mind and I remembered that, yeah, there's still something. I don't know what it is. Yeah. Do
you feel like you still don't know what it is? Or was that just then that you didn't know?
No, I feel like I know what it is.
You feel like you know now? Okay,
yes.
That's good. That's good. So, this guy who, well, I know through, because I've heard this story from you. I could hear it 100 times, but I know that this person, like, what was it, like a year or something after you found out who tried to blow up the house, right?
Yes.
Okay,
So about a year later, I'm up late, watching TV, and I'm watching the news, the local news, and this man's the reporter says Stuart Poirier has been arrested with how many counts of arson, and there was a fire where we live downtown. Like there was a massive fire, there were firemen that were injured. It was a big thing. It was like to one of our, I don't know, I would say like historic sites, like
record.
Yeah, like it was a record store, Sam the Record Man, I think it was called. But it was a major place like downtown. It was kind of like, I would say like a historical site kind of. Anyways, it burned down and it also like took a building beside it down too. Like it was a major like I don't know, 4 alarm fire, whatever you call that. Like it was, yeah. And so then here I am a year later.
This is a year later after the pills.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm watching the news and I see that this man has been arrested.
And this is the guy who lived in your basement.
Yes,
This is the
this is
guy
the man.
who tried to blow
Yep.
up the house. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
And he said that he, they had asked him why, and he said he liked the idea of seeing things burn, and he liked the idea of people getting hurt.
Wow.
So it was an intentional, you
Mhm.
know, I'm not going to say that he had anything personal against me,
Mhm.
but he definitely had the intent for the house to explode.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's just,
How was what like being someone who lived in your basement? You would have seen him. You would have like spoken to him. Did he strike you as someone who, like, what was your own view of him in encounters, if you had any? Mhm.
I didn't have a lot of contact with him,
Mhm.
but there was this one day I'm walking behind him. I'm walking to the bus stop. I'm on my way to work. So I'm walking to to get the bus.
Mhm.
And he was walking in front of me. He was like, quite a bit like few steps ahead of
Yeah.
me, let's say.
Mhm.
And he turned around
Mhm.
and he kind of gave me like a half smile, but there was like I started crying. Like
Wow.
there was just this sadness, this
Mhm.
unbelievable like sadness, and I got so emotional
Mhm.
and start just he didn't say anything to me.
Wow.
We didn't have like, any words. It was just he just happened to turn around and look at me and I started crying. I just felt so much
Wow.
like empathy for this
Wow.
man,
Mhm.
but I didn't know anything about his story. Um, I think that other than maybe seeing him in the backyard, like
Mhm.
that was pretty much like, and that might have been only one other time. I really had no interaction with him.
Wow. Wow. I think it's so easy, like we're when we're going through our stories, right? Like we're living it out, we don't realize certain things. And then after you look back and you could literally see how things are almost orchestrated in a way because you didn't have to have that encounter with him.
Mhm.
And for whatever reason you did, and it affected you in such a way for you to feel so emotional that like
Mhm.
something inside of you knew and detected that that individual is in immense pain,
Mhm.
right? And so now, after finding out that he was the one who tried to, um, blow up the house, you already had within you a feeling of like, this man is a hurting man, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's
Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
Um, from when my husband and the landlord said that somebody, like said what happened, that someone took the gas tank from the barbecue. I just knew that it was him. I told
Mm,
them like it was Stuart, and they were like, no, like,
yeah.
why and what reason, and he lives here too. And they had went and knocked on his door and it was locked from the inside. And
Wow.
they were like, oh, like if it's locked from the inside, like he has to be home. Like it wasn't him. Why would he want to blow
Yes.
up a house with him in it? And I just I can't explain it. I just knew
Yes.
that it was him.
Yes.
So then, yeah, jump
Okay.
ahead and it is him,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah. And he went to jail and all of that stuff
He went to jail and
also.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
he passed away while he was
While he was
in
there.
jail. Yeah.
Okay. So this is a year after the pills. This is closure happening.
Hmm.
All of that, right? So where were you when you were watching this? Like, were you still living in your house? Where like at this point, like a year after the pills, where were you?
No, I had so after I woke up from um the pills,
Mhm.
I knew that I had to move from where I was living
Mhm.
because it was just too overwhelming,
Mhm.
because that house that we lived in, we had only lived there together as a married couple. So
Mm.
every memory that I had,
Yes.
every like, everything, like I couldn't sleep in my bed. Like I said, I slept on the floor in front of my bed, or I would
Mhm.
sleep on the sofa
Mhm.
because it was just too much. Like everything, you know, reminded me of him.
And
And I knew that like, okay, I did, I took these pills and I didn't die.
Yeah.
So there's a reason for me to be alive,
Yeah.
but I can't stay here.
Yeah.
If I'm going to
Good.
in any way figure out like what the
Mhm.
reason is, I can't live here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
a friend had called me and she had been trying to get in touch with me. I was like at that point, like not returning people's calls
Mhm.
and whatever, just kind of, you know, um, going into myself.
Yeah.
And I told her that, I need to move.
Mhm.
And she said, I could come and stay with her, um, until like I get myself figured out. But yeah,
Mhm.
so I did. Yeah.
So is this like, how do I put it? Is this your your brightness? Is this like the love that we're talking about? Like, so okay, you go from the sleeping pills saying, okay, I need to get out of here. There's a reason I'm not dead. Is would you consider like that is the time, like the light coming into like what at what point do you say like, you know, love reached in and like really grabbed you out of that?
I mean, I think that it's like a small, like, let's say, like,
Mm,
there's a small flicker of
I
light that
love it.
starts to shine through,
Yes.
but
Yes.
I'm not there yet,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
But like I said, I moved out from where I was living,
Yeah.
and in doing so, it helped me to reconnect with some people that I hadn't
Mhm.
been in contact with for a
Mhm.
very long time.
Mhm.
Not because of anything, just,
Yeah.
life, right?
Yeah.
And I got into contact with a friend, and she invited me to, she had sent me a message to watch she wanted me to watch this presentation.
Mhm.
And I was, kind of resistant, but I told her that I would watch it.
Mhm.
And so I did.
Mhm.
And the message, it was, to join like a community that's focused on spirituality and just other types of growth, like,
Mhm.
and um, it just resonated with me like right away. I was like, yes, I'm in,
Mhm.
it just, yeah. And this group, which was started by you, um,
Mhm.
um, yeah, you in the group, like there was the main group, and then we had like other things that, focused on physical fitness, different things. Like we had a recipe group, whatever. And then you started the um, Rising Vibrations
Mhm.
group, which was like focusing on meditation at the time. When we first started out, it was
Mhm. Meditation.
meditation.
Mhm.
And you added me to the group,
I know.
you know? No, because we didn't know each
Without your
other,
permission.
but I got this like notification on my phone, right? Like
Yeah.
Yandia has added you to this Rising Vibrations group.
Mhm.
And it was to do with you had a little like synopsis of what it was about, and it was
Mhm.
meditation.
Mhm.
And while I didn't have a lot of experience with meditation, I had two really great experiences with it. One, like at my workplace, there was
Mhm.
this wellness day, and it was just a very positive experience. It wasn't anything like, I wouldn't say profound, but it was very
Yeah.
positive.
Yeah.
And then the second time I had went to the salt cave and we did a guided meditation,
Meditation.
and it was really great. So when you added me to the group, I was like, okay, well, like
Yeah.
really, I've had a good experience with it. I don't know exactly what it's going to be,
Yes.
but I'm open to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wonderful. So you said that you're talking about like the light. It seems to me like the light, and I love that you said that. It's so perfect. Um, when you step back and you look at your life, you actually realize that that big moment of brightness actually started like before.
Hmm.
It's like literally like the sunrise. At
Hmm.
first it's dark, and then there's just a little light, and then you're in the brightness of day. That is what I have found to be like my journey, and other people who I've spoken to when we talk about, love. rescuing us out of darkness. At first, there's that big moment, right? There's the clear distinction of the day and the night. But when you look at it, you could see that it was, it had a progression to get to like being high up in the sky at noon.
Right. Exactly.
There's like your 5:30, your 6 and your 7 getting brighter and brighter. And so I love that you said that because it's true. Absolutely. So bring us through the brightness. So you had the little the sparks, and then it's getting brighter and brighter. So now you're part of the meditation group, and then just talk to us about the brightness. How does it get brighter?
Okay. So yeah, we were, meeting every day, like every rising 5:30 a.m. And, I really looked forward to those times. And then we were doing meditations. We would talk and do meditations. And then there was one day where we were supposed to listen to a meditation, and for whatever reason, the Wi-Fi wasn't, working and whatever. And so somehow we got to talking about our names and what our names meant. And everyone was like, happy and participating in it. And I think I was the last person to go because I did not want to have any part of this.
Yeah.
Um, I had a lot of resentment towards my mother, my biological mother, because I felt like well, she named me after my grandmother, and then she gave me um, so my name is Mary Ann. So Mary was my grandmother's name, and then she named me my middle name. She gave me a middle name, Lillian, which was my mother's name. I just felt like she just gave me this name with no like consideration. Like it was just so like she couldn't bother to think of something unique for me, or like just yeah, just give her a name. It doesn't matter what what it doesn't matter what it is. That's how I felt. I felt like that. So I was, not wanting to discuss my name because I felt like, you know, everyone else has like a connection to their name. And I just feel like this is just something that this woman gave me because she couldn't be bothered to think about something else. So, but it was my turn. And, I expressed that, like, that I I don't really care about my name because my mother just gave that to me without any consideration. And in the process of that, um, my mother, who had transitioned like 4 years earlier, which nobody knew about, um, this was still pretty early on in our group, so no one knew about that my mother had already, had passed on. Um, but she made herself present to Yandia, and um, basically had a message that she had been like hanging on for the last 4 years because she had been waiting for me to meet you so that she could give me the message that um, the reason she gave me that name was because that's all that she had to give me at the time. And me hearing that was like, because when my mother transitioned, I didn't really grieve her per se. I grieved the fact that I felt like, okay, so now I'll never get answers from her. Why couldn't she love me? You know? And so just just that message alone was like, I would say that's when the light really started to like break through, because it was, I don't know how to describe it, like why it meant so much to me, but it meant so much to me because it was like, finally, you know, she, like she didn't just have this child and hate this child. There was some love. And it just, yeah, took away so much pain. I
Mm,
had cried like pretty much the whole day.
mm. I remember
But
something as you're talking. I remember when your mom came through, that feeling of love. I remember that. And I remember also saying to you, um, because she was saying this to me, my
mhm,
name is all that's mine. My name is all I have. And so I gave it to her. And then I remember I was saying to you, your mom wasn't okay. I remember telling you
right.
that, like, your mom was not okay when she was on earth, and she wanted you to know that, like, she wasn't stable, and she said like that something had happened to her. And I remember saying that to you,
Mhm,
like, your mom has gone through some stuff, and this is, I did not even know about anything about
right,
your childhood. So
right.
the first person who kind of gave me the inkling of your childhood was your mom. And
Mhm,
and so it's amazing that that message was so important for her, that she was saying, I've been waiting for someone to come that can tell her this. So I know that a lot of people don't believe in people transitioning and them giving messages and so on, but I know a lot of people who will tell you different, and I'm one of the people who will tell you very different, that it doesn't even matter to me what anybody believes. I know what I've experienced. Marianne knows what she's experienced. I shouldn't be knowing things, about
mhm,
her mother. And I'm telling you, every single person that I've assisted, as far as, people who have transitioned goes, it's always love. There is such a feeling of love, strong love, that could not be broken, by them transitioning. And it's that love, that they're using to communicate, these messages to their loved ones who are still on earth. So after receiving that message, you went through, I remember, a time of just like, yes, like you said, like crying, and just finally like forgiving her
mhm,
and letting her go,
right.
right? And she had been waiting for that, and just letting her go. So that's, yes, that's definitely brighter.
Yes.
So keep talking to us about like what, because you're here now, and this is like
Mhm,
your sunshine. She's in the sunshine right now. Um, but that was a journey, right?
mhm,
That was a journey, going from that moment of meeting your mom, or not meeting your mom, but for me, meeting your mom, and
mhm.
relaying that message. And then what happened after that?
So then there were other things like, again, like we had um other guided meditations. There was a day where we were paired up,
Mhm.
um and we were asking Most High for like a message, a word, for the other person. So Yandy and I happened to
Okay.
be the two that were paired up. And, I was saying, okay, Most High, like, tell me something about Yandia, because I was thinking that I'm going to tell her something that's going to encourage her, right? And I heard very clearly, Yandia loves you, and I told her,
Mhm, mhm,
that that's what I heard. Like that is what I heard,
mhm,
you know. But and that might seem like, you know, okay, like what's the significance of that? But I needed to hear that
mhm.
because there was so much more
Right.
that I needed to open up about.
Yes.
But I would not have been able to open up about it to somebody if I didn't know that
Yeah.
that person loves me,
Yeah.
because there was a lot that I was um, holding inside,
Mhm.
and I wouldn't have felt comfortable
Right. Yeah.
to be able to say it. Um, okay, so that was like, that's one thing. And
Mhm.
then we did another guided meditation where we were, um, yeah, asking spirit like for a message for ourselves.
Mhm.
So I'm in a field, and the field is kind of divided. Like there's like a clothesline that's going across it, and um there's like, I don't know, bed sheets or curtains, like a clothesline, like, but it's
Mhm.
dividing the field. And so I like open the curtain to go, or open, spread the bed sheet, whatever, to go through.
Mhm.
And I see myself walking towards me, but I'm a little girl, like I'm about 8 years old. and I'm walking towards me. And while like I see myself walking towards me, I'm just focused on myself as a child, like my inner child. I'm not even paying attention. But when I got my 8-year-old self got right in front of me, and I looked, and she was holding Yandia's hand. And she said, "Here, I brought somebody that's going to be able to help you." That was like, you know, I knew, okay, okay,
I can feel you, sis.
things are things are gonna start happening.
Love,
Yeah.
love, 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 love.
Mhm.
That's the point of all of this, right? Remember, guys, yes, this is talking about some dark stuff, but as much as Marianne may be mentioning me, you just realize that we live in a world that has us very separate, and spirit does not want us to be separated,
Mhm.
right? Spirit doesn't want us to be separated. Spirit uses us. We'll use me, we'll use Marianne, we'll use you. It's like spirit may be invisible, if you want to put it that way, but we're visible, right? And so we are still here. We are spirits in a human body. We're having human experiences, and we need each other. Okay. So all of these stories are here, not just for you to listen to what someone else is going through, but to hopefully stir you up to want to reach out and love somebody, because spirit, source, most high uses us to make differences in other people's lives. And it's always going to be through love, right? So at this point, spirit had said to her that I love her, and had showed her that I was going to help her, right?
Mhm.
And then meanwhile, in that meditation that we were doing, um, I got this thing, Marianne is your honeybee. I said, what? What is this? This makes absolutely no, what? I'm like, do I need more sleep? So we're there, I'm really holding this meditation and listening, listening very carefully. And all I hear is, she's your honeybee. I said, okay, Marianne's my honeybee. And then at the end of this, everybody's going to be sharing what so everybody has these big messages.
Mhm.
Everyone has these big messages. And her and I, it's just like, Spirit said, yeah, indeed, love you. I'm like, Spirit said, you're my honeybee. And it's just so hilarious. And but that would play out later
Mhm.
in life. It would in our life together, we would get a full understanding about, what that is. And I think you did write a book, and we'll talk about that later,
Mhm.
but I think you in there has that some of that is captured,
Mhm.
in there. But talk to us now a little bit more. So now you're at that place where it's healing time,
Yes.
because that's what's happening. We're
Yes.
talking about the light getting brighter and brighter. Source is leading you to face certain things that you haven't faced. That's what it's all about, right?
Right.
So
Right.
talk to us about it at that point. What next?
Okay. So then you said that you were going to be offering readings.
Yes.
And the readings are like not in the typical way that you would think of a reading. It's more like to do with um for someone to be spiritually aligned.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the
Yep.
focus is on. So you have been talking about it and saying that, we could contact you if we wanted one. I didn't really know like what to expect. But I was a little nervous about it because again, I didn't know what to expect. It's not like the traditional thing of what you think of going to a fortune teller and, you know, so I just I didn't know what to expect. And even though I knew that, yes, healing is coming, I knew that on a level, but at the same time, there were things that I really didn't want to talk about,
Mm-hmm.
to do with my childhood, especially.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want I didn't want to be known as the person that was sexually abused. I felt like, okay, that was when I was a child.
Mm-hmm.
So why does anybody need to know now? You know? But then we were in a meeting, and one of the ladies had had a reading done by
Mm-hmm.
Yandia, and her experience was so positive, and she was just, it really, she talked about how it helped her to be aligned. And I was just like, okay. I messaged Yandia like then. And it wasn't, nighttime. I think it was like maybe 10 o'clock. And I said, I wish I could, because we did have one scheduled, but I knew it was scheduled, but I was still very like, I could change my mind.
Yeah.
But I messaged Andy and I said, I wish we could do it right now or tonight. And she said, okay, well, let me, rearrange some things. Let me talk to my husband and let him know that, I'm going to do this and then I'll call you. And so you called me, I don't know, maybe like 20, 30 minutes later. And then we did this reading. And, you talked about how like I wasn't in alignment. I think it was my sacral
chakra.
yeah, sacral chakra
Yeah.
that was out of alignment. And you got this message that I needed to write about, I needed to start writing, that would help me get into alignment. But then, and during that reading, I shared about like the sexual abuse that I had went through as a child, and about the fact that my mother knew about it, you know, and how I felt like, that she didn't love me and so forth. But then you also told me that while listening to what I was saying, um, you told me, you got the message that I needed to forgive myself. Um, and, up until then, like I had just talked about what had been done to me, but you got that message that I need to forgive myself.
Yeah.
And so then I said, well, yeah, there's something more that I need to tell you. So that something more was, like I said, when I was 11, it's when my grandfather when my grandfather died. And I came home from school, and it was a day like any other day. I came home from school. My brother stayed outside to play, and I came in and I was sitting across from my grandfather, and he started holding his chest, and he was having a heart attack. I mean, I had never seen anyone have a heart attack before, but I knew that, I knew that he's having a heart attack. I probably saw it on TV or something. So I knew what was happening. And he was telling me to go and call my uncle that lived like not far from us at all, like maybe like a 5-minute drive. He would told me to go and call him. And I didn't. I sat there and I watched him, like the panic on his face, and I watched him like collapse. And I probably sat there for a couple more minutes after he collapsed. And then I got up and I went and called my uncle and told him that, grandpa's like, I think he had a heart attack, whatever. So then from there, like he took over, I guess he called 911 or whatever. And yeah, he got him to the hospital, whatever. And then we went to my uncle's that night. And then my cousin, who was like 4 years older than me, so I was 11, so he would have been 15. He came downstairs and told told us that, you know, he said grandpa didn't make it. He died at the hospital. And I just remember feeling this incredible relief, you know. Everyone else was crying and I just breathed this huge sigh of relief, you know. And I know, even though I was relieved, but I had that guilt that I let him, I thought that I had killed him, that because he was having the heart attack in front of me and I didn't do anything about it. Like, if that had been anybody else, my grandmother, whatever, like I would have been screaming and crying and running to the
course.
phone, and I didn't with my grandfather. So I had that guilt. And you told me that I didn't have anything to feel guilty about.
Zero.
And
I still stand by that till this day. Absolutely nothing.
and I needed to hear that. I
Mhm.
needed to I needed to hear that I didn't have anything to feel guilty about, you know, that I was a child and I was in this impossible situation and I did what I needed to do,
Mhm.
you know?
Mhm.
And then the next day, Yandia called me again and she called and she was like, "How are you doing? I haven't been able to stop thinking
Mhm.
about you and about your reading and everything, and just want to let you know that you did the right thing.
Yeah.
You know, you didn't do anything wrong." And that, like, though the first time she said it to me, and then the second time, it was like, you know, it was so profound to me. It meant so much to me because it wasn't just the first time when I said it, I was crying. I could barely get the words out. I was saying it through my tears, you know? And it's like, sometimes we say things to each other to comfort each other in that, like,
Moments.
in that moment.
Mhm.
But you called me the next day
Mhm.
and like doubled down on it,
Yeah.
and it meant a lot to me because it's like, that's what I needed to hear.
Yeah.
I needed to know that, you know,
Mm. Can I add something there?
yes, yeah,
Um,
of course.
you're the thing about it is that when I said like a lot was going through, right? It's because remember it's like your mom had shared some stuff with me that I had no way of knowing. But after you shared with me what your grandfather had did, everything your mom said had made sense,
Mhm,
right? And then I remember I had said to you, your mom, he did this also to your mom. Because
mhm,
this is like she was telling me, like, and so I knew and I said to you, like, he also did this to your mom. This is why she was telling me like she wasn't okay. And it's just so much with her, with everything she'd gone through being here. And then you explained to me that, yeah, you never heard about him doing anything to your mom, but you were aware that your grandfather was in jail for
mhm.
doing that to your mom's older sister.
Right, right.
So, and so, when I felt that leading to call you and let you know that you have nothing to feel guilty about, your actions were appropriate and they were right, you know, you did not kill anybody. Your
Mhm,
grandfather lived a lifestyle. Whatever he did, whatever got to this place is how he had to exit. That
mhm,
was his way. You had nothing to do with that. And I'm so glad that you had that. I can only imagine what that sigh of relief
mhm,
um would have been like, a year at the age of 11, from 10 to 11, being molested daily by your grandfather. That would have like, no, I'm sorry, I even whether message or not, you know what
mhm,
I mean? And I think if you also feel like Marianne had no reason to feel guilty and that she did the right thing, just send her a heart. I want her to see a whole bunch of hearts just going up in that chat. You know what I mean? Because I'm telling you, it's not only me who would feel that way. You know what I mean? You've gone through so much. And I always tell people, I say, you see this little one
thank
here?
you.
She is, look at all the hearts going
Yeah.
up, right? She is a shiro, a hero. For those who don't know, I think people say shiro, but I always say like she's my hero. The reason why is this: when we go through hard times, it is so, we could be so justified in shutting down, and we have all the right to be depressed and to be angry and all of this different type of stuff. When you meet somebody who's gone through darkness and they're able to still love, they're able to still shine, this is it. There's nothing, there's nothing more valuable and precious than that, being able to hold on to your glow and to your shine regardless, and it not being fake, right? But coming from within you. So if anybody knows Marianne, Marianne gives you these great, amazing hugs, you know, and she gives you these great, amazing hugs, and she smiles, she lights up the room. My children, my whole family, we have the privilege of knowing her, and she's, you know, a very dear friend. She's one of my besties, you know, now at this point, it's been years. So, you know, definitely our joining together is not just one of you know, a man-made joining. You could see the orchestration of spirit bringing us together. And your story is amazing. I know that there's some other things. I mean, through the reading, and I mean, I did share with you, like, you need to start sharing this. And whatever came through the children's books, all of this stuff. And she had never told me that she had also other people told you, right? From before that you would
That I
that
need
you
to
should,
write a, yeah, I need to
yes,
write a
yeah.
book.
But I
Yeah.
remember you saying you always felt kind of held back from it because of your childhood,
Right.
because of the pain of what you had experienced. So just realize, like, we have gifts and we have purpose, but if we don't dissolve that pain, and if we don't go through that healing, all of the goodness that we could be, and all the good things that we could do, it gets just locked down, you know, under all of that pain. So tell us about, then we're at this part now where, okay, you're relieved of the guilt and all of that stuff, you know, that was around the passing of your grandfather. And now you have to make some moves, right?
Right.
You have your reading, you know, sources already showed you that, hey, healing is happening. What next? What was your next thing to do?
The next thing, well, okay. So yes, you said I need to write, but um, before that, like, we had a meeting where part of this community that I had spoken about, and we had a meeting, and I shared my story, um, you know, about my childhood and so forth, because um, that was to kind of get me comfortable,
Yeah,
because you know, it's one thing to share it like with one other person that you know that loves you, but it's
yeah,
really, yeah,
yeah.
you know, even though, you know, I knew that that's what I needed to do, but it's not easy. So I we had a meeting and I shared my story, and then we did an Instagram live
Yes.
and shared some more details, and then yeah, I started to write my story,
Yeah.
and I think I finished the book well, it's been a year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
It's been a year.
It's been a
And
year.
we had a retreat, and I was able to
Launch the book.
launch the book. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So proud of you. I'm
Yeah.
so proud of you. When they talk about, you know, turning your mess into a message, you know, we go through dark times and then the light comes in. And we don't have to pretend like the dark times never happened. The dark times did happen. See, other people are going through dark times also. When you pretend like darkness never happened, you are denying yourself of such goodness. You're denying yourself of so much expansion and so much love, you know. And sometimes we may think, I don't want to share this darkness with anyone because they might look at me different. They will look at you different as an overcomer. That's the difference. And so if you feel that you've experienced dark times, but you can't share it because of how you're going to be judged, I want you to just take a moment and realize, is this really an issue of how people will judge you, or are you still having a judgment about yourself? And that's what it comes down to. It doesn't matter if you really decide to write a book or share it openly or speak on a platform. The issue is really, is there some part of you that is still looking at yourself through the lenses of that darkness? Until you start looking at yourself through the light, then your healing is not really complete, and you should continue, you know, doing whatever it is, you know, that you need to do to make sure that you no longer have guilt and shame about whatever it is that you've experienced, and blame, right? So so you've shared your book, right? You've shared with your book, you did your launching. I want to share also a little bit about, it just came to me, and I feel like I would like to end it on that note.
Mm-hmm.
But when I remember you had started, I think you had just started writing your book and your birthday was coming along.
Mm-hmm.
And it
Oh,
came
yeah.
to me, and it came to me, you know, to do a painting for Marianne's birthday. And I thought to myself, I hardly have, it was like I had like a week, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm thinking, I'm doing so many things, but okay, do a painting. And I said, sis, what's your favorite tree? Because I know that she liked trees. And she told me, oh, I love the evergreen, right? The evergreen tree. And I said, okay, I'm gonna, you know, paint something for her birthday. And so I was looking through, you know, all the different pictures for to get a reference picture, and everything was looking like not it, not it, not it, not it. And then finally I said, look, I have to decide because we are on like I have 2 more days and then it's her birthday. And so I looked again and I just saw this picture. And it was nothing fancy, but it felt right. It was nothing like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And so I said, you know what, that's the picture I'm gonna paint. So I just painted her picture. And when I got to the end of the picture, of the painting, I did like a rock and a flower and stuff. And I kept looking at it like, this is incomplete. And I remember my husband came through and I said, babe, look at the picture. And he always says, if the painting disappears from your house,
Yes.
he's the one who would have taken it. But he loves that painting so much. But so I looked at it and he was looking. I said, something is missing. What is it? What is it? And at the same time, him and I both said, bumblebee, a bumblebee. And so it's like the little honeybee, right? It's a
Mm-hmm.
little
Right.
honeybee.
Yeah.
So I put a little honeybee right on the rock in that little spot. And then the next, it was like 2 days you came over.
Mm-hmm.
She came over to my place and she spent her birthday with my family and another friend of ours. And so uh, I remember I presented the picture to her, the painting to her, and she had told us that she had just um, gotten like the title of her
Right.
book, and then her book was going to be called Amongst the Trees. And so the painting that I did, it really was a bee sitting on a rock amongst the evergreen trees. And the significance of that, I want you to share the significance of the bee sitting
Okay.
on the on the rock.
Okay. Because where my grandparents lived, there I used to go into like this forest type thing, and there was a clearing and there was a rock that I used to sit on, and I would talk to the trees. Especially after my grandma um passed away, I would talk to the trees because now, like everything that my grandfather was doing and whatever, and I felt like the trees could hear me, you
Mhm.
know, that was
Mhm.
like a comfort to me.
Mhm.
So for Yandia to paint that when we had not discussed it, in fact, when you asked me like about my favorite tree and whatever, and I told you, but I didn't really say anything else because I knew
Mhm.
I had this knowing that okay, whatever you're gonna know instinctively what to draw for
Yeah,
to paint for
yeah,
me,
yeah,
you know. So I didn't really want to say anything
yeah.
to influence it because I just knew that whatever it's going to be is
Yes,
going to be exactly what I want.
yes.
Yeah.
And this is her book right here, Amongst the Trees. And you can't really,
Yeah, I don't know. You can see
yeah.
the
Oh, there's
honeybee
a little bee right
right
here,
there. Yeah.
sitting on the rock, talking to the trees. So
Mm-hmm.
this is um this is just one example, guys, of how when you go through darkness, dark times, I mean, can anybody refute that what Marianne has gone through in her life, that it wasn't darkness? She's gone through darkness from losing her husband 3 months before that, losing her baby, trying for many years to get pregnant. I'm just bringing it all the way back. Then going through the sexual abuse from her grandfather, from her stepfather, that is a lot. That's a lot. Most people would have already, you know, had sleeping pill moments, you
Mm-hmm.
know, or other things way before that. You are more than a survivor, you know, you are more than a survivor. And I love the fact that you are so brave and you would come on here and you take every opportunity that you can to keep stepping, into the light. Keep stepping into the light, stepping into the light. It's not easy to come onto a public platform and to talk about the darkness. It's not easy. People will always have their thoughts about you, whatever the case is. But you know, like we talked about it today, even if it's one person, even if it's one person that is encouraged by her story, then it's worth it. It's worth it, right? And so to close off, Marian, I want to ask you, first of all, if you have any final words for us.
Yeah. For me, like the whole purpose of writing the book was not just for my healing, but to also help other people. Because sometimes we can get stuck in the trauma that we went through. Like for me, I was stuck being 11 years old, you know, and not being able to um, forgive myself and not being able to see myself as lovable. I, very much thought that if these things happened to me, um, I must not be lovable because, how do people do things like that to children? So there must be something with me. So definitely I want people to understand that you don't have to stay stuck where you are. It is possible to actually heal from your trauma, and then it's still it happened, but it doesn't have to be the thing that defines your whole life.
Yes.
You know, prior to starting my healing journey, I used to cry all the time. I used to look in the mirror and say tell myself horrible things. You know, I don't do that anymore. And I don't cry myself to sleep anymore. And I don't believe that I'm unlovable, you know? So that's I mean, if you knew me then, you would know that that was something that, you know, it it's amazing to me that I don't do it anymore. And then also, you know, even sometimes when we try to talk to other people about it, even therapists, psychologists, whatever, we're given this idea that it has to stay with you. You know what I mean? You never actually get to the point where you can say you're better. We always hear children that have been sexually abused, it ruins their whole life.
Yep.
Their whole life is destroyed. But it doesn't have to be that way. It is possible to get through it and come out on the other side and help other people. But we don't have to be just, there reliving it every day.
I love that. I'm listening to what you're saying, and what I'm getting from it is that we you have to take your healing, you have to be
Yes,
conscious with your healing,
right.
right?
Exactly. Time isn't just going to heal you. You could be, this could have been something that happened to you when you were 5 years old.
Yeah.
And you can be 40 years old and still dealing with it, or 50 or 70, whatever. So you have to make a conscious decision that you want to heal, and you will. People will come into your lives, come into your life, circumstances will happen to help, um, promote that healing. But you have to want to heal.
Definitely. Um, just what's coming to my mind again, you got the perfect husband, right? You got the perfect husband. And as soon as he was taken away, all of that was not dealt with.
Right.
It was part of it. It helped to push and to motivate. And what you were hearing was, I don't deserve this. So
Right.
so anything negative that happened to you, because you didn't deal with those
Right.
underlying things, it was confirming, see, I'm undeserving of this. I'm
Exactly.
right. So what I'm hearing is that if we don't deal with our brokenness, if we don't deal with the things that we need to heal from, life will always happen.
Yeah.
Life is like this, ups and downs, ups and downs. It has to. You're going to meet some people who love you. You're going to meet some people who don't. If you don't take the time to consciously, and you have to choose, healing is a choice. It's a decision. If you don't take that time to say, you know what, I am going to overcome this. I'm going to understand this. I am going to overstand it, understand it, whatever you want to do. Stand around it, fly over it. I don't care. Whichever way it comes, but you cannot ignore these things have happened to me, right? I don't have to make them define me.
Right.
I can acknowledge, yes, this person did this, I experienced this, I experienced that. What do I want for my future?
Right.
Right? Because if you don't deal with these things, life will keep happening, and the voices and the conclusions that you came to in that dark time will always find a way to be affirmed by the negative things that happen in life.
Right.
And then eventually you find yourself, you know, at the bottom in darkness, right? And I just love your story, Marianne, because I like I said, I don't know how many times I've heard your story at this point, but I can hear it over and over. Like every time I hear your story, I hear another part. I see another way how spirit was moving in your life, you know, and even down to like having it be the neighbors, someone contacted someone to get you out of there. Like, I mean, there's so much to it, you know. So if you're watching this program right now, and you're going through darkness, I guarantee you that light is around. I guarantee you there is light around you. Just ask, say, Most High, creator of heaven and earth, the one who created my spirit, help me to see the light that is around me. If you find the light, that light will always lead you to greater and greater and greater and greater and greater light. And before you know it, you'll be standing out in the broad daylight, the brightest shining light, and you will no longer be in the darkness. So it doesn't matter where you are and how dark it seems, there is always light there. There's always a light, even if it's just a little glimmer. All you need to do is find it and keep following. It will increase. Okay.
Definitely.
So, Marianne.
Yeah, I just wanted to say something like, you know, how you were saying, like, if you keep, you know, standing out in the light, like the light will keep finding you. Because before, like, I think I was just like married like maybe a year at this time. And my foster mother, she had taken in over like 75 children over her lifetime. And so she was going to be, it was Mother's Day coming up, and she was going to be honored. And she was going to be like, she's going to be on TV, and they were going to be talking about like, you know, yeah, how she's taken in over 75 foster children. And my foster sister wanted me to come onto the program and talk about my life and how like I'm kind of like a success story, like, you know, and I was not having any of it. Like I was absolutely against it. And I was actually kind of insulted and angry because I thought like, you know, you have no idea what I've been through. You know, you don't know my story. And now you want me to come and tell people, and there's going to be people that I know, and you know, everyone that I work with like watches this show, and they're all going to know, and they're going to judge me, and I don't need anybody like feeling sorry for me that, oh, Marianne was the, you know, the girl that was abused, and then start like treating me differently. So the fact that I'm here telling my story, the fact that I have a book about it is like proof in itself that
Totally different person.
Totally different person. Like there's no way that I would have, you know, actually didn't if I actually didn't heal, there's no way, because I have resolved that I'm taking this to the grave with me, and so be it, you know? Yeah.
I love it. I love it. And you know, as I sit here and I'm, you know, present with you, I'm listening to, I just see a little bee flying, you know, and I remember when I was little, I used to catch bees with my bare hands. I would catch bees, and other kids would be afraid to use bags and stuff, but I would catch bees. And, I remember when it came to me about the honeybee, you know. And so I'm sharing this, and I'm going to close off with that. Maybe sometimes we're afraid to get stung, you know. We want to help someone, but we're dealing with our own fear of being hurt, right? Our own unresolved things. And so we may not want to make ourselves available, and we may not want to reach out. I'm not saying go and be someone's therapist. I'm saying smile. I'm saying offer a hug. Maybe, you know, something touch, you know what I mean? Obviously welcome touch, right? But I'm saying like it doesn't have to be something big. It could be just calling and checking up on somebody, you know, be the little glimmer, be the little light. You don't have to be the big, bright, shining sun in someone's life. Be okay to just be the glisten, be the spark. We could just be sparks, right? Start somewhere, be something, because you know what? You are light, so just shine a little bit for somebody, and you never know, because you meet people sometimes and they seem like they're full of confidence, but they can go home and take sleeping pills.
Yeah.
They can go home and do something, we never know. People could smile and pretend like they have everything going, and deep inside they are drowning and they are dying. Your kindness can go a far, long way. You have no idea how many lives you probably saved already with your smile.
Right.
So please be encouraged. I hope that you have benefited from this time together with Marianne and myself. Show her some love. Marianne, can people get in touch with you somehow if they want to talk to you, or,
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Through my, I have an email, yawaviheals@gmail.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I will place that. Maybe someone could put that in the chat. And I will also put that information in the description of this live, along with the link to purchasing your book.
Right.
And also, if anybody wants to support the healing center that we are saving towards, you can also see information about that. So I love you guys. Thank you again, Marianne.
Thank you.
She's a hero. If you think Marianne is a hero, can you just say that, like, in the chat, say, yeah, you're my hero, or you're one of my heroes. Like, let her know. I feel like it's so important to let people know how much, when they take that brave step to share their story, it's not like entertaining. It's not an entertainment thing. It's like your words are touching somebody's heart. Your words are giving somebody hope, So please let her know in the chat if you were touched by her story. Let her know that you are thankful that she is here with us, still with us, and you ain't going nowhere until it's your time to go.
Right.
Okay, so thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you again next Sunday at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time with another story, a love story. So look out for it. Please be here. And if you would like to share your story, contact me at lovestoryforyandea@gmail.com. Love you guys. See you next Sunday at 7:30. Bye-bye.
Bye.